So Damsels was always going to be my version of the Manics Faster. One, because Faster was the song that started it all for me. Hearing it on the radio, Steve Lamacq playing it and just going, what the hell is that? I want to be in that song. I want to know what all of those lines reference. And I just, whoa, it just blew my mind sonically. It blew my mind lyrically. And I think a little bit arrogantly, I've always imagined, well, what could I write for my 12-year-old self now? And I guess it is the gap there of the feminist history, you know, giving the next generation a kind of guidebook to, here are the women who blazed the trail for you. Go and find out about them. Go and read about them. And it was so interesting when I was recording with Eaves Wilder, who is the guest vocalist on this track. And it so happens that her mum is Caitlin Moran. And she sent me a text saying, oh, Evie's like looking up all of the references, and it's so wonderful that she's discovering all of these women because of the lyric, and that was exactly what I had intended it to be. And so that felt symbolic as well. Not only has Evie got an incredible voice, you know, I love the way she evokes that kind of Harriet Wheeler Sundays-esque 4AD sound, but also, you know, she is of the next generation-ish. I don't know how we would divide it here, but it felt symbolically appropriate that she would share the vocal with me on that record too. So it is a bit oblique, and it does demand a little bit of a reading list if you want to fully understand all of the references. And I think I've always tried to hold that in balance on this. There are certain tracks on this album that do that. It's like, if you want to dive deeper and you want to know what I'm referencing, great, here's some signposts. Or you can just enjoy it as a song, and that's okay too. Yeah, so calling the song Damsels was really part of that bigger gesture to get people to rethink what are the cliches that they've just accepted as being true. And, you know, we often talk about the damsel in distress and how women are fragile and need saving. And a lot of us grow up with that kind of the indoctrination of the fairy tales that we're all waiting for our white knight on a horse, or horse knight on a white horse. Not sure which one it is. And I guess I looked back at my grandmother and I did not see a damsel in distress at all. And it got me to thinking about how much the reasons I felt as if I'd never really quite felt comfortable with the label of girl or woman was because I didn't really fit in with those stereotypes. I've never been gentle. I've never been softly spoken. I have never been very feminine in the typical sense of the word. And I think a lot of that comes from her gene pool. You know, she was a very forthright person. She was a very strong person, a very political woman. She did not need saving. You know, she took charge of the family and raised many children, and took them all back to Wales when that was not considered to be the right thing to do. And I think it was about kind of reconsidering this idea of, do we accept this narrative that women are not defined by their strength? And I started looking back not only to my personal history, but to history more broadly in the song Damsels, and all the women that had stood up and challenged the status quo, that had showed enormous strength, resilience, and the ability to not fit in with the expectation to be meek, mild, and vulnerable. And that really chimes with my gender identity of what I think a woman can be.